Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. This is Kero Riri Paddle, and today we're sitting down with Astrid Tanton. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am a little frazzled, a little discombobulated, a little confused, but I am doing good. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Wicked, cool. As I was saying right before this, I came across your music and I really like what you're doing. Local artists are people who I'm always looking out for, and I really enjoy your work. I think you're hyper creative, and I would love to pick your brain a little bit about music, about making music videos, about Toronto life, and about a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Yeah, go right ahead.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I am an 18-year-old singer-songwriter as well as musician. I've been singing since I was 3, playing drums since I was 7, and I added guitar and piano when I was 11. And then I kind of started seriously songwriting when I was like 12, 13-ish. I'm also going to Ryerson full time as a student. Now, of course, that's been online because of COVID. So didn't really happen first year. I did first year from my bedroom. Hopefully, second year I'll get to do some more in-person classes. But yeah, I'm an 18-year-old singer-songwriter, producer. I own my own record label, so I am my own record label. I'm signed to myself, which is cool. And yeah, like I'm very independent. Yeah.
The fact that you're so young, but you have the foresight when it comes to owning your own work, being your own record label, that's very important. And it seems like you're definitely going through something pretty unique going to school. And I assume you moved to Toronto for school, right?
I've been living in Toronto for 6 years now. So I moved here when I was 12 years old to go to high school because I went to Rosedale Heights School of the Arts, which is a Toronto arts high school. And I actually graduated to high school a year early. I graduated when I was 16, and I took a gap year to travel, which was really awesome. And then COVID hit when I started my first year.
That's pretty unique. I definitely want to touch on that in a little bit. But yeah, it must be tough going to Ryerson and then you don't really get to experience that student life. I didn't go to Ryerson. I had a couple friends who did, but I definitely drank at their pub, the Ram,
Yeah.
a lot, like on a weekly basis. So I'm very familiar with Ryerson and that entire lifestyle. The downtown core is it's amazing to be around and not being able to go to class. Like I know it's annoying to go to class, but still there is part of the experience of post
It's a
secondary where you
culture, right? Yeah,
yeah, but it's okay. In due time we'll all be back to some form of normalcy.
for sure.
So you've been playing instruments and singing since you were very young. How did you discover your passion for music and what did that look like when you were younger?
I guess like I was so young, it's hard to like really remember if there was a certain moment where my parents were like, she's really into singing, but I was always singing and humming as a kid. There's memories of me being in like airports and like putting on full shows for people waiting for their flights and like bowing and like my first song I sang at a with a vocal coach was Eye of the Tiger. That and High School Musical were the go-tos for young Astrid. And my parents just saw from a young age that I really liked to perform and I liked acting and dancing and singing. And singing was kind of the one that stood out the most. So they found a vocal coach who was willing to take on a 3-year-old. And I just kind of started getting into it. And then my brother, like my family and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, because he's also a musician and he got into an arts high school in Nashville. So then growing up around him, watching him play guitar and all his friends were musicians. So I got to kind of experience that, which helped me kind of find my own path of music. And then it just kind of progressed and it became less of a hobby and very clearly more something that I wanted to do with my life. And so kind of end of middle school, grade 8, my parents were like, if you want to do this, like we got to do this. Like you have to give this your all. It's not something you can kind of just do like on the side. So I applied to this arts high school. I got in and then I started like really songwriting and working with producers and kind of testing the waters. And then like over the last year and a half is when I've like really got my grounding and like figured out like who I am as an artist.
For a lot of artists, they tend to not realize how much work it takes, especially when you want to be independent. You're a singer songwriter, you have creative control and ideas behind your music videos. All of that is so much effort. I am a little bit into music myself. I've performed as well. I've performed around the city. I've traveled for music, and it's something that it's extremely hard to balance with other things, whether it's school or having your family support you, and they have to balance their work with their child's career. But it does seem like you have put in a lot of the work, and it's paying dividends with what you're doing. Your songs are very well crafted, and I can tell that you're somebody who puts a lot of effort into what they do and a lot of care and attention to detail. What were some of your musical influences when you were coming up?
That's good. So I would probably say a big one that I like really looked to was Alessia Cara. As a fellow Canadian, I just love that she was fellow Canadian. She was really young when she got discovered. And she kind of, like me, was a girl in her guitar. She wasn't the difference between her and like a Britney Spears style performer is like, she's way more into like the songwriting and like almost the poetry aspect. Not to diss a Britney Spears style performer. That's an amazing art that I don't think I'll ever be able to pull off like those huge dance numbers and stuff. It's a lot of work. um, but she definitely gave off a more, I would say, like stripped back, like I'm just a girl in my guitar. And I really looked to that and was like, that's like me. Like I'm I want to show people that yes, I'm an artist, that I'm someone like I have like a media persona, but that persona is just me. I'm not gonna come up on stage and put on a mask and act like something I'm not. I'm gonna come on stage and be like, guys, I'm 18 and I'm like really trying my best. Like this is who I am, and that's also what I've tried in my music. I want music that everyone can like relate to and connect to. Like my whole reason for doing this is because I want people to realize like you're never alone. Like no matter what you're going through, like I got you with this song. We can cry it together on the street. We can have a dance party to this one. Like I like that sense of community, and I think music is like the only thing that really can like bring people together like that. Like it's we've been doing it for centuries, right? Like music was the core of human connection and community. So like that's why music has always meant so much to me.
Yeah, I fully agree. There's something about music that as I get older and I realize how powerful it is and how strong of a tool it is when it comes to bringing people together, or the cathartic experiences of creating and expressing yourself in different ways. It's so important. There's nothing that can replace music. There are many different ways to consume it today than before. There are many different ways to perform it and get your art and your crafts out there, but music will always be something that brings and chains humans together for sure. Uh, what other musical influences? Maybe other
Oh
singer
yeah.
songwriters,
So
other
Alessia Cara, really recently I've also been more recently than I would say her earlier stuff, but like the new direction Taylor Swift's going has been super cool, and I've really enjoyed listening to her songwriting. She had a documentary came out. I forget what it's called. I think it's called like it's like Miss America or something
Miss
America.
Americana.
Yeah. And I watched that, and that was like crazy eye opening for me, because the whole reason I became an independent musician and signed to my own record label was because I saw what happened to her with her music and how her music rights got bought out from underneath her. And it just really made me realize like she's the most powerful woman in the music industry. Like most people would deem Taylor Swift untouchable, and she got her music bought out from underneath her. And I'm just an 18-year-old girl starting out. So that means I am easy, I'm easy prey in this industry, and I got to make a stand from the get-go. It's a bit of a dog eat dog world in the music industry. So I wanted to make a very clear stand from the beginning that I can stand on my own and I can do this on my own. And I really like that as she's matured and gotten older, she's done the same thing. Like, when she was younger, she was very pop princess and very like look good for Disney. And like now that she's like a mature woman, she's very much like, no, I'm going to write what I want to write, and I'm going to do this how I want to do this, and you're going to like it or you're not, and then I don't really care. Like, I just really like her composure and ability to be a businesswoman as well as a performer.
I love Taylor Swift. I really appreciate her as an artist, as a creative, as a businesswoman, and to hear you so articulately explain why you like her, it's also a lot of the reasons why I appreciate her. Also, her albums last year were incredible.
Oh my God, I can't get over them. I cannot.
I don't understand. Like, I've been so impressed with her music because she's done pop, she's done country, she's done 80s style, she's done dream pop, she's done so many different things, but then to go in such like a folk cottagecore kind of direction, it really came out of left field for me. And I remember listening to Folklore on repeat over and over again, and I never understood how an artist that I really loved, to see them go through so many changes, but then to still get to a height that continues to inspire me.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to continue to do well with what I'm doing, even if it's not songwriting. Taylor Swift is definitely an influence on me and many other people.
For sure. Yeah, I think like especially her ability to storytell, like listening to Folklore, like her like lyrical ability, I think is incredible. And I think her storytelling, even in her early stuff, I'll say like her storytelling is always phenomenal. And I think like what really got me is if you listen to Folklore and then listen to like Reputation, you're like, that's the same person just at different stages in their life. Like, it's crazy to think about.
Definitely. I put Taylor up there with Bruce Springsteen, honestly. Like, when you look at great American songwriters, someone who can talk about not only themselves, but weave stories of other individuals, whether they're fabricated or they're friends, Taylor does that so well. And maybe you can maybe expand on this a little bit, as you're a singer-songwriter. When you're writing, do you write from your experiences, first or second hand, or do you think of something interesting that hasn't happened to you but you would like to still express?
Yeah, so I cannot write about something I have not experienced. Eve, as hard as I've tried so many times to just try and kind of create something. I'm a very sensitive and emotional person. And so I feel a lot all the time. So I have to write from personal experience or from an experience of those I really care about. And that's pretty clear in all of my songs. It's either something I've experienced or something someone I really care about has experienced and how it kind of affected me, or it's me trying to tell their story from their eyes, which is why my new EP that's coming out is called From My Eyes, because everything is related to something I have seen or felt or been through.
When you're writing, do you set yourself aside from everything else and then you say, I'm going to finish this song one way or another, I'm not leaving this spot until it's done or at least gets to a point where I'm comfortable? Or do you take your time with the songwriting process, getting the music first, the lyrics as they come to you, and maybe revisiting it and changing it?
So I feel like because I'm still kind of young, it's always going to be an evolving process. Especially through COVID, I found like I got stuck a lot with my guitar, and I almost was like, I'm going to throw this guitar off my balcony. Like, I cannot look at this guitar anymore. Like, I'm just so annoyed. Like, I cannot look at you. Like, I'm just upset. I'm someone that it'll hit me at any random point. It'll just come to me and I have to go to my guitar that second. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I will be sitting on the couch watching TV with my roommates and I will just get up and go to my room. And then 30 minutes later, I will be sending my producer a voice memo with a new song. And it's something where I have a really hard time leaving something and coming back to it. But it also, when I get on a roll, it doesn't stop until it's done. And it can be a very quick process that then goes through a lot of editing through production. But when I songwrite, it's almost like a word vomit. Like, it's just like everything just comes out and then I'm usually exhausted and I need to go to sleep because I get tired.
When I would sit down to write songs, it was very much, oh, this sounds pretty good. I think I've done enough for the day.
Yeah.
And then I walk away. But I find that, at least for me, that's not the most productive way to write. I think like I know exactly what you mean when you say you want to toss your guitar out the window. I told myself with all the time that I was spending home last year that I would really have to try and write in a different style, and I wanted to inspire myself, so I bought myself a new telly, and I'm like, this guitar is going to write 50 songs by the end of this year.
Yeah.
I think I got through like 8 or 9
Yeah.
throughout the entire year, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know how you find inspiration. It seems pretty difficult for someone like me to actually create something that they're happy with. Have you ever written something that you put a lot of time and effort into hoping it would work, but then you realize that it isn't really true to what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I find that because a lot of my songs come so raw from like my emotion and like what I'm going through or what I've experienced in life, I have a really weird connection with my music because it's very scary for me to release it or to show it to anyone because if they know me, they'll know that this song is relating to something in my life. And then the next question that follows is usually, who is this about? Or what happened? And I don't want to talk about it. That's why I wrote it in a song. Is, like my songwriting is definitely a form of therapy. So when I write something down and I've kind of vomited it out onto my notebook and into my guitar, I don't want to talk about it again. You listen to the song and that's that. It's left at that. And so I don't necessarily say I'll write something fully and then not like it, but sometimes I'll start something and I'll just have like a gut feeling. I'm like, this isn't the right direction. Like this isn't where you want to go. So leave it. And then I'll come back in a couple days and I'll try something completely new. Because sometimes I have this feeling where I'm like, oh my God, I really need to write this. I need to get this out of my system. But if I try and force it out, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to want to sing it. I'm not going to want to do anything with it. So I've just learned that I really cannot force myself to do it. No matter how hard I try, I cannot force myself to do it. I have to let it come naturally.
Do you write solely by yourself? Or do you also like collaborating with others, whether they're other songwriters, producers, someone who doesn't write for themselves, but they enjoy having someone write a song for them?
Yeah, so right now I am kind of the sole songwriter. I do work with a producer, Spencer Schwartz, and he's amazing. He's a Toronto producer. He's great. And sometimes he'll like suggest more in terms of like musicality or like production element, but in terms of lyrics, they are solely mine. Sometimes they'll change like through production. Like we'll be like, oh, if we're doing like this, we should move this lyric here. Or instead of using that for the chorus, we should use it for the bridge and like move this kind of part of the verse there. So there's little changes like that will, be discussed with my producer, but lyrically it is kind of completely me and me only. And in the future, I would love to work with other artists. I think it'd be great for me to like look at new ways of writing. And also like, I think some of the most amazing work is done when you're in the room with other creatives like you. And I think I really want to do it. And obviously COVID has made it a little difficult.
A little difficult. Just
yeah. So I'm really hoping in the future to do some songwriting workshops or just like work with some creatives. I really want to do some collaborations in my music in the future. I've done a lot of solo stuff. And I really would love to like collaborate with some artists and do more group work, which I am talking to a few right now. So hopefully that'll be coming up in the future. I would love to work with other artists. I think it also is definitely a bit scary because it means you have to be vulnerable and be okay with someone being like, I don't like that. And I'm very sensitive, as I said. So constructive criticism, I can sometimes take a little too personally, which is something I'm working on.
That's okay. I feel many artists can feel like that because after all, these songs, they're kind of like children in a way. You build them up from an embryo into this fully fleshed thing, and then when you bring them out into the real world, all of the sudden, oh, this doesn't really work. But yeah. I spent 2 weeks trying to figure out that bridge. I thought that hook was good. It's not that good. We're going to fix it. But yeah. I also feel like when you can own up to that and you can be open to work with somebody else, you're making yourself vulnerable, but you're also doing what's best for the song. And sometimes that's what you need, that outside help to come and help you with it.
Exactly.
Let's talk about music videos a bit. I am very impressed that such a young artist understands the importance of having the visual medium working in tandem with their music.
Thank you.
I know some people do think, okay, I'm going to do one music video a year, but you have a number of videos and they're all very well produced, very well put together. And I can tell that you're someone who, as you go on, you're going to have more ambitious videos and or more grand scale videos, but what you've done so far right now is definitely well beyond your years. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration that you got when it came to putting more effort into the visual aspect of your music, and what kind of mind frame do you put yourself when you're working with a director and you're working with a cast for your music?
For sure. So it's actually funny you bring that up because I have a song coming out August 13th, and we just did a music video for it a couple nights ago. And I produced the whole thing myself, and it is definitely my most ambitious video. It was quite a production, and it was a small cast, but the cast was also my production crew. So I had dancers, and then I had two filmers and myself, which meant everyone was hands-on. And because of COVID, some of my previous videos were a lot smaller because we had to, follow regulations and make sure everyone was safe, which was really important to us. So my first music video was Broken Goodbyes, and that one was definitely full production. We hired a production company. I definitely had creative say, but they definitely took the lead and I just gave my input, which was really nice for my first video because it allowed me to kind of, I was like 16. I was a baby. Like I'm still a bit of a baby, but I was really nervous because that was my first song and I was scared of how it was going to be taken and all of that kind of stuff. So it was nice to work with people who did this for a living, who I could kind of watch. And even though I was the artist in the video, I could learn a lot from what they were saying and how they were setting things up and making like storyboards and looking to other videos for inspiration. And then my second video was Love It All. And we also hired a production company that I knew a bit more personally. So I got to, once again, learn from a different point of view and learn about lighting and using haze machines and how to layer tracks so that, your words line up with when you're singing it. And then after those two videos, I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can do this without the production company because music videos are also very expensive. And as starting out as a musician, it's like money is not always the easiest thing, especially being a student. I work part-time. I'm trying to do this as much by myself as I possibly can. And so saving every dollar is like the most important thing in a musician's life, especially when you're starting out. So cutting the production costs gave me a lot more room to put money towards other things that I wanted to, like better equipment or, live shows. Oh my God, I really want to play a live show. I'm praying for live shows in Toronto soon. Yeah, so Comfort, I did a little dance video for, as well as a music video. The dance video was very fun. It was definitely a step out of my comfort zone as I am a singer, not a dancer, but I learned and I did my very best. And I got to work with my friends for a lot of my videos because I went to an arts high school, which meant I knew kids in the film department and in the dance department. So having friends who were also creatives was really nice because they could look at me and be like, that doesn't look good. And I wasn't as scared to be vulnerable around them because they knew me personally, which was really great. So getting to work with my friends was awesome. And yeah, like I'd say a lot of it came from planning, and you just have to take the time to realize what your vision is. Like I spent a lot of nights with my notebook listening to my songs on repeat, which isn't the most fun activity as an artist.
Tell me about it.
Listen to them on repeat and kind of jot down like, oh, for this part, it'd be really cool if I was like this, or, oh, if we went up to this area in Toronto and did this, then it would look really cool in contrast with this. So, another thing is you don't want all your music videos to look the same, right? So once you do an idea in one video, you kind of want to stay away from it in your next. So trying to keep things fresh and also still my style. Yeah, it's music videos are kind of the next step creatively, I would say, after songwriting.
Do you have any favorite music videos from artists that have inspired you, or maybe any like TikToks even where people are doing dances that may have inspired you?
I love TikTok so much.
Oh, I love TikTok too.
I love TikTok. It's such a bad habit because it has made my attention span so bad. If a video is longer than 30 seconds, I'm like, no, I don't have the time for this, which is sort of like I try and read because I'm like, I feel like a 5-year-old. Like I just can't sit still. It's so bad. Yeah, so I really like Billie Eilish's Bellyache video. It's like super cool and like very artistic and kind of out of place. I really like that video. I also really like Alessia Cara does one on a streetcar in Toronto. I think it's her song 17. And she's like switching outfits and it's just kind of like her popping around a streetcar. And I just thought it was like such a fun idea. I also like Shawn Mendes. He has his video for In My Blood, which is like an incredible song. It's him like lying on the floor. There's just glass falling around him, but it's just him like having a breakdown, which I thought was really emotional. And for a male singer to do something like that emotional, I thought was really awesome. I also really love Shawn Mendes because he's been doing a lot more of like emotional work and showing a really soft side, which I think as a male influence is like super important in today's day. His new one of his new videos, Wonder, is also phenomenal with him like dancing and like running through the woods. It's so cool.
There's so much creativity coming from our city right now on all fronts
Oh, it's
when it
amazing.
comes to cinema, music, the visual aspect of music, even like with things like technology and business. Toronto is, it's always been a huge city, but I think people are now really starting to realize, and artists are feeling more comfortable expressing themselves in ways that we thought, we're Canadian, this is our ceiling. We don't have a ceiling. You can do whatever you want, and
Yeah.
people are
People
seeing it.
people are pushing the boundaries, which is like always something I'm here for. Like, especially I feel like with activism in the city, it's been really nice to see people really taking a stand. Especially with like all like the heartbreaking stuff with the residential schools and like just these things that should have been dealt with years ago or never should have happened in the first place. It's nice to see people really being able to come together, especially after being separated for so long due to COVID. It's really been nice to see like the city rally and kind of be there for each other and also push the boundaries of what Toronto should be.
On the topic of Toronto, the greatest city in the world, what do you love about this city?
Ooh, I love a lot. I truly actually do really love this city. I have a cottage up north, which I go and spend weekends at, especially in the summer. But like I'm always really excited to come back. I thrive in a busy environment. I almost do my best when I'm very busy because I just keep moving and I kind of gain momentum. And so being in a city like Toronto where there's always something happening is like really healthy for me because it's a fast-paced environment. So it works really well for me. Um, I really love the overall like I'm trying to think of the right word for this. The overall like I would say like if you're not in the so like downtown Toronto can be very touristy. But I really like going to places like Little Italy or like Little India and like seeing these little communities that have formed and seeing how like Toronto, it's like you said, Toronto's a huge city. But if you zoom in, there's all these incredible little communities and little nooks of places that you will have never thought to find. Like I have found so many cute little like coffee shops or like little flower shops. And like I find those little spaces in cities to be the most incredible, especially as a creative, because they're like little safe houses almost. Like it's a break in all the hustle, I guess.
I tell anybody when they're spending time in Toronto, the best thing you can do is just take a couple days, check out the small stores, walk down the Danforth, go to Markham, see so many different things. Like even in Scarborough, there are so many great parks.
For
Our
sure.
our beaches, our forests, like there are a lot of very unique things here.
For sure. Yeah. I think especially because, every big city is going to have the big malls and, like the big skyscrapers and obviously the CN Tower is amazing. Ripley's is super fun, but I think you'll find a lot more interesting things that you won't see a lot of places in those little communities. And like, it's like you said, like going to like the Danforth or like going like Queen Street East or like really far Queen Street West or like King Street West, you'll find like more, home, like a sense of home and community.
Before lockdown, back when we can still have fun, we can do great things.
For sure.
Were there any venues that you really appreciated in Toronto? Any acts that you saw that you really enjoyed?
Oh, so this is a funny thing as a musician, and I feel very bad saying it. I have like never been to a concert.
No, I feel you. Don't worry. It's
um,
okay.
I've never like I've gone to a few that were like kind of like my parents got tickets and we went as a family, but like I've never really been to a concert that I was like, I want to go see this artist. Like I regret this and I'll regret this for my whole life. When I was 7 years old, I got the chance to go see Taylor Swift and I went, no, I'm too tired.
What? You're
I did.
7. What are you tired from? You're
I
7.
don't know. Actually, I do. I was in the marathon club and we just had practice. I had been
Mm,
running,
mm,
but I passed that up and I think about that to this day and I'm like, what were you thinking?
wow. Do you know which album cycle it was that she was touring on?
Like Fearless. It was OG Taylor. It was like the beginning, like her and the guitar. And I lived in Nashville. It was like her home. Like she was playing in Nashville, Tennessee. I could have gone. I can't talk about it. It's too
You're
upsetting.
breaking my heart right now, man.
I'm breaking my own heart. um, in Toronto, I really like the Danforth Music Hall. Um, I went to school kind of close to it. And so I remember a lot of kids from my high school would go see artists there. Like literally they would skip class to go see an artist because we were in arts high school, right? So like music and dance and all that stuff. And I'm really into like drag shows. I really want to go see a drag show like Brooklyn Heights. Ooh, Brooklyn Heights. Love her the most, especially as a Toronto like based or Toronto drag queen. I would love to go see a drag show. I'm hoping to be doing some shows with the Rec Room as they open up. I am partnered with them, so I'll be doing some stuff with them, which is super exciting.
That's a great venue.
They're awesome, and like especially with the arcade and everything. Like I love the Rec Room. The Rec Room used to be like where I'd go to hang out with friends and like play games and just have a good time. Um, I also, yeah, the Danforth Music Hall was probably a big favorite one for me that I looked at a lot because I saw a lot of artists I knew if I would drive by, I would see they were playing there. And so in the back of my mind, that's definitely one I would like to see my name on like the little thing, like Astrid Tanton playing here. That would be a really cool moment for me.
So I can share an experience with you when it comes to being a musician but not attending concerts. My first concert was Bruno Mars
Hmm.
on behind his second album, Unorthodox Jukebox, I believe. So the fact that it took me so long and I had already performed so many gigs before I finally saw an artist, let alone a big artist, like I completely get where you're coming from. I feel that when you are making music, a lot of the times you look for inspiration from other artists, but then you're always worried about how is this song going to be, and you're worried more about your career and you're worried more about how do I get into the smaller attainable venues for me. So I completely get where you're coming from. Since then I've gone to a number of concerts and now I don't think I'll ever miss a concert again, seeing how it's been like 2 years since I've seen anything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy to think how much time like I remember like through the first lockdown, it felt like the most agonizingly long thing in the whole wide world. But now it's crazy to think that like it's been 2 years. Like I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that's wild.
Yeah, it's strange. Like the last thing that I did, the last like any fun that I really had at like an event was like I'm a little bit of a club rat. You wouldn't know because you're too young to club. And I went to Rec Room, I went to Rebel, and I was at Kensington for my birthday weekend. And that was the end of 2019. And it's coming up 2 years since I've done anything. I haven't gone to any of the great restaurants in Toronto. I haven't even seen small bands. And
Yeah.
it just like even sometimes I'll be walking down the street in downtown Toronto and I get that nostalgia for how things used to be. It's great that we're starting to get back to a point where we can all come together and start doing things again. But I don't know when we'll be able to go back to a full venue. I don't know when we'll be able to go back to going to Budweiser Stadium or Scotiabank. Like these are things I'm really, really missing.
Yeah, especially as a musician, it's definitely conversations I've had with my team, like because it's looking like it's going to kind of be every artist in their team gets to make their own rules, like obviously with following regulations, but like in terms of what you want from your fans to do, like so because like I already know there's been the big thing recently is like Some restaurants in Toronto are refusing to host if you don't have your vaccine. Like they're not taking people who decide not to get vaccinated. And so you have to kind of, as an artist, decide what are you going to do moving forward. Like when things open up, what are your regulations going to be? And no matter what you do, it's going to make some people happy and some people upset. And that's just the unfortunate thing of this industry, is that you will not please anyone ever. It's just not humanly possible. Like no matter what I do, someone's going to be happy, someone's going to be upset. So we've been talking a lot about like, so how do we do a live show? You know, how would you space people out? How would you regulate who's vaccinated, who's not? Like what are the options? And so I've also been looking a lot about like how what they're doing in the US, and also what like touring artists are thinking of doing, to try and get some insight, because it's a lot to think about, and it's very stressful to try and figure out how, because I love to perform. I'm a live performer till the day I die. I love to perform. I love meeting people and getting to connect with people in real time. So it's a big thing for me. I'm trying to think, how can I make this work, especially because Canada's not nice weather all year round. So at some point, people got to get inside. Like it's already August, right? Like, you know, before you know it, it's going to be cold. People are not going to be happy about standing outside. So it's definitely a lot to think about.
Do you have any dream venues that you would like to play at some point in your career?
Definitely the Rogers Center. That, I mean, I think they're actually tearing it down now. They might be tearing it down, which would be a little upsetting. But I used to live right beside it in my old apartment, and I would hear all the crowds, and I would usually hear whoever was playing. And I remember, like, especially going to high school and like having all that around me, I was always just like, oh my God, I wish I could play there. Like that would be incredible. Because also to sell out a stadium like that or get even close to it, like that's an accomplishment in itself. So like the Rogers Center would just be a very kind of, everything would come full circle if I ever got to do that. That would be awesome.
Nice, nice. Any like smaller Toronto venues that you would like to perform, even if it's like maybe just showing up on stage with a local act even?
Yeah, so that's kind of, I love those performances. Like one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is like you'll see when artists just kind of show up at little venues and they just do little performances. Like I always love that kind of crowd, because I also think it's way more interesting to see an artist when they're not like in the full 50,000, like when you can actually kind of see them like right up in your face kind of thing. I think it's called the Velvet. Velvet has really cool atmosphere. I'd love to play there. Like I said, Danforth Music Hall would be really cool. I'm really open to just about any small venue. I actually prefer small venues to huge venues because you can get a little more intimate and have a bit more fun with your audience. So honestly, any small venue would be a dream to me.
Rebel is one of the venues that I would love to play one day. I've gone clubbing at Rebel so many times and have passed out drunk at Rebel so many times, but it's still such a great place. And I've seen DJ acts, I've seen rock bands play there, I've seen pop acts play there. Toronto has a lot of amazing venues, and what the city has been doing and how we've been developing such historical places. I can't wait for all of these new artists that have been building up during this downtime to be unleashed and to really put their mark on these places. It's going to be incredible, and yeah. I definitely see you being amongst that wave.
I really hope so. We're trying.
Let's talk a little bit about travel. I know you travel, and I want to start off with Nashville. That's Music City. What is that like?
So I was kind of young. I was only like 7 or 8 when I was there. So in terms of my music there, that's where I started drumming. So after singing, I don't know what hit me. I just decided that drumming was the next thing. So lucky me, Santa Claus got me a drum kit for Christmas. And then I started taking lessons, which really ended up being a blessing in disguise, because now I have a really good sense of rhythm in music and ability to keep a beat. Because for so long, like just like hitting a kick snare, like that's like all I did from like 7 to 10 years old, really. So that was really ingrained in me. And then, like I said, my brother went to Nashville School of the Arts, which meant I would go see his performances. And he was super classical guitar at the time, which was very different than me. We also have a 9-year age gap. So for a lot of my younger life, we just didn't get along because I was a little girl and he was a teenager. And so it was just like it was oil and water. It was not going to get along. Um, but he had a lot of patience for me, and he really tried to teach me to play some instruments, and I was just not patient person at the time. I just was not, I was not doing it. But it was really awesome, especially because, like you said, it's a city of music. So like I remember we'd go out for dinners and stuff, and there were like 99% of the time there would be an act playing at a restaurant. No matter where you went, there would be someone singing and playing guitar. And then right before the pandemic, I actually got to go back and play at a restaurant, which was amazing. And it was crazy because I was like one of those moments where you're just like, I used to be like sitting there when I was like 10 years ago, basically. And now I'm like here playing guitar. So it was really cool, especially because to see how Nashville has evolved in terms of the music and like what their kind of music city now is. Like, I feel like they've become a lot more singer-songwriter and less country and more into that kind of like singer-songwriter vibe, which has been really cool to see. But I definitely want to go back more. And like I said, it'd be awesome to collaborate with artists in Nashville. That'd be like a dream.
Is it true that the best musician that you will ever meet is going to be the person busking on the corner in Nashville, and then everyone else will be equally as good as, if not better? Because everyone who's ever told me about their experiences in Nashville, they come back wanting to really practice in woodshed and work on their vocals and work on their instrument playing because everyone in Nashville is wickedly talented.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, right? So Nashville's a city of music, so I feel like in everyone's family, music is just like ingrained, like drinking water. Like it's part of life. And I don't think I've met one person in Nashville who isn't like, oh yeah, I can play guitar, and like they're wicked on guitar, like crazy. But they just like they don't think of it like that because it's just kind of like part of how they grew up because their dad played like that, and then their dad's dad played like that, and then like you know what I mean, like it's one of those things that it's so like ingrained into the city and the way of life. So I think yeah, that would probably be something I want to do in the future, is definitely go back to Nashville and maybe take a step back from the performing and really work on my craft as a musician, because of how rooted music is in Nashville. Like, of course, it's super important to focus on what's happening now in the music industry and what the influences are now, but it can never, ever hurt you to go back and take the time to strip everything down to like just being a musician and focusing on that craft.
You've traveled overseas. What's the music scene like out there? I don't know if you went to any gigs or venues or you saw anyone perform and play, but what's it like? And are you inspired to tour or maybe play gigs over there?
Yeah, so I've gotten the opportunity to live in like Malta, and I have family in Denmark, and I went to India for a few weeks. So I've definitely seen some crazy different culture shocks. When I was actually in Denmark a couple years ago before the pandemic hit, and when I was there, they had their Pride festival, which was amazing because I'm also bisexual. So getting to be in Denmark when the Pride event was happening was crazy cool to me. And it was really interesting listening to the artists they had there playing versus like, I guess, more North American pop. But I did a lot of reading up on pop and what pop music is, because pop music is literally just an acronym for popular music. It's not like jazz where it's like has rigid boundaries or anything like that. Um, and a lot of pop music, its origins are Swedish and European, and kind of started from like Swedish house music. And then that kind of got morphed, and then the Beatles got in there, and then Michael Jackson, and now we have pop. Um, so getting to kind of go back to where pop music kind of started, you can really hear that in places in Europe, pop music is still very house, and very very house, and like still very disco dance-esque, while pop here now has kind of transformed, and you have artists like Billie Eilish who are considered pop artists, but like I don't know if you've heard her newest album, it's definitely not traditional pop. Or like
Not at all.
Taylor Swift is a pop artist, but you wouldn't say folklore is pop because pop stands for popular music. So whatever is popular is going to be considered pop. While in if you said pop in Denmark or Sweden, you would think of like a house music or something more dance or electronic, which was really interesting to view, especially as an artist. And then places like India, it's just crazy because the music is like worlds different. It's like you're entering, like it's like you've left the planet. And so being there and seeing how different their version of pop is, and the people that they put on as their pop artists, there is in India there is a lot of North American influence. And North American culture, like Beyonce and like those really big artists. But aside from that, their dictation of pop music is way more focused around a sitar or around flute. So like seeing how like you can take a word like pop and you can go to a million different places and there will be a million different definitions.
Just goes to show music truly is universal, and that's something that many people can't really appreciate until they travel and they get to experience music in other countries.
For sure.
I played in a backing band as a guitar player, a keyboard player, and occasional backing vocalist. It was a Persian band, so I was singing in Farsi. My
Wow.
best friend is Persian, and it really opened my eyes to world music, and it's something that I feel every musician who wants to do it as a career, they really need to open their eyes to what else is out there, because yeah, pop is great, North American music is great, but there's so much out there. Even if you like K-pop, get into Korean music, get into Japanese music, get into like music you'll hear in Bollywood films. Like there's so much out there. And even like what you were saying earlier, with like how Denmark was a big thing for like music, and like Sweden, all of those places, I absolutely love ABBA. And ABBA is unabashedly European, so you can hear that with what they do, even though so many of their hits have infiltrated English North American culture. But that's what makes music so amazing and universal. And yeah, it makes you a very well-rounded musician and person when you open your eyes and your ears.
For sure.
What's something about music that you've come to realize as you've gotten older?
Ooh, that's a good question. Something about music I've come to realize as I've gotten older. I would say this one, I guess, more pertains to my music, but my sound is going to change as I change. And the way I write is going to change as I change. And I notice that a lot, especially with this EP that I'm working on and releasing right now, is that it's all changing very quickly because I'm changing very quickly. And so therefore, the way I write and the way I view my music is changing. And that was very weird when I first kind of came to notice it, because I was like, this isn't what I normally do. What's happening? And why am I writing like this? And that's because, as people change, so does their likes and their dislikes. And coming to understand that as a musician was really interesting, because I found I was writing in a different style. I also love poetry. I love poetry with all of my heart. And so I noticed that like my writing style became more poetry like, and then I would find a melody that worked with it after, which I used to be not like that at all. I would just write lyrics and have a melody in mind right away. So I think like, yeah, something I've learned about how like music changes and how I change is that like it's an ever evolving process. And like going back to Taylor Swift, like that is the best example of an ever evolving process. Like every album could be a different genre, but it's all the same artist, and you can still say like, no, that's Taylor Swift's sound.
Do you ever find yourself writing poetry just for the sake of it, not just to create lyrics, but to express yourself?
Yeah, I've actually been really into slam poetry recently. I love watching slam poetry. Yeah, I've been watching so much of it on YouTube, and kind of writing my own, because as a creative, I think, especially like you'll understand, like it's just because I'm a musician and a singer-songwriter doesn't mean I don't have creative interests in other things that are arts or are not just singing and songwriting. And sometimes singing and songwriting, you don't want to do it because it's your job and it's what you do all the time. So sometimes you need a break. And in those times, I'll look to dance or I'll look to poetry because they allow me to get my creative wants out without having to feel like it's always work. And I think that's really important as a musician, is to not always think that just because music is your job as well as your passion does not mean it is all you have to do with all your time in the world. You're a human being and you need to give yourself the space to explore everything, because that's what will make your music better.
Do you see yourself collaborating with your brother, the Phineas to Billy, if you will?
Yeah, we've tried a few times. We have very different music styles. He's very successful. He goes by the name like Rhoda, as well as he has like a band right now called Afternoon Bike Ride, and they are doing amazing. They're from Montreal. They're doing amazing, and they write beautiful music. It's all incredible. But it's just very different than what I do. And we've tried to collaborate a few times. And I just think because I'm still discovering who I am and I'm still working and evolving, and he's now he's almost 30. And so he has a very clear idea of who he is as a musician and a performer. So our collaborations don't always work that well because, one, we're very different styles, and two, he has a very sure kind of style of what music he likes to make and what he wants to produce with his band. And I'm still kind of experimenting, and I'm 18 years old. So I don't even know what I'm going to wear tomorrow. Like I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I know I have to go to work, but that's about it. So I'm still kind of fumbling around with music. And so we've tried to collaborate, and I would love to collaborate, but I think right now, because we both have such different paths, it's just not going to happen at the moment.
Okay. Well, you never know in the future, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know there are some songwriting partnerships that don't come around till much later. I know of people who I knew they were songwriters, but I was very much in my blues rock, hard rock. That was when the Weekend Drake Woozy thing was happening. So that's the kind of music I really gravitated to making when I was your age. And now I'm very much in the mindset of, I like synthwave. I like a lot of folk and country music. I find myself being more insular and singer-songwriter, and now those people from back in those days are more in line with what I'm doing today, and we can be more collaborative. It doesn't always sound great because you still hear those differences with people, but there are some gems that came about, so you never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any other artistic interests?
Ooh, yeah. So like dance, poetry. I actually took dance in high school, so that was kind of a fun little discovery for me. I'm not very tall. I'm like 5'8", 5'9". I'm just lanky. I have long limbs, and so as a dancer, it was really cool to take it in high school because it gave me a lot of body awareness. And as a performer, if you want to perform live, like you can't just like stand and hold the mic and just like, people want to see a show. And so I've been working with a choreographer and creative director, Leanne Tammy, who's also Toronto based, and she owns her own studio, and she's amazing. And so she's been helping me work to be more confident in my body, because as a singer, songwriter, musician, we're really great at sitting in our bed and writing something and then throwing it out to the world and then like not touching it again and just being like, there, we're done. We're going to now sit in bed and like, you can go stream it on Spotify. And COVID made that a little too easy for artists, because you put out a song and a music video and the world couldn't ask for anything more for you because of the pandemic. And so our job was done and we could get cozy in our bed and do it all over again. But obviously, as the world opens up, people are in dire need of live performances. People want a show. People want that electric feeling of feeling the energy and like the seeing, like, this is a weird thing to say, but like, there's something really amazing about seeing a performer sweat and seeing them work. And it's like kind of like people are like, ew, I don't want to see someone sweat. But like seeing someone like work and like you can tell that they're also enjoying their work, but they're really putting in the effort. There's something really awesome and energizing about that. And so I know when I go on stage, I want to give people a show, and I want to show that, yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter, but I can give you something more. I also took musical theater in high school, so I have that kind of performance background there as well. Um, yeah, so those are probably like my little other creative things is musical theater, dance, poetry.
Okay. What are you looking forward to the most? You've already mentioned that you want to get out there, you want to perform, but even outside of music, what do you really look forward to 2022?
Going to school. I want to meet people. I feel like I made like 3 friends this year because Ryerson was online, and like no one wanted to have their camera on Zoom. Like no, and like I get it at 8 a.m. I don't want to turn my camera on to listen to a lecture. Like I didn't want to do it either. Like I get it. And I just miss like meeting people, and I feel like a lot of my best creative relationships come from just meeting people and being like, oh, you do that, I do that too, let's work together. Or like a lot of these people I've met through like Instagram, and I'm like, oh my god, we go to the same school and we had no idea because we've literally never been in person. So how are we supposed to know each other? And I just miss like having those interactions, like being like, oh, do you want to meet at a coffee shop to go study together? Do you want to oh, we have the same class? Or like, you know, those little like just like the little interrelationships that give you something to hold on to. I miss that. Like they're like, luckily I made a couple awesome friends, and we would like do group FaceTimes together. But like I miss just like texting your friends and being like, where are you? Like, do you want to go meet at this coffee shop? Like, oh, there's this cool party tonight. Do you want to come with us? Like those little things, especially if you're over the past couple years, I think we've realized how much those little things really mean.
Yeah, I really do miss a lot of the fun and the accessibility of this city and being with people that we once had, which is why I'm really looking forward to it coming back. And maybe it won't come back to how it was 100% before, but I am looking forward to just being with people and
Yeah,
seeing people.
I think a lot of it also is like the sporadic energy of being like, oh, let's just go do this. Like now, if you want to do something, you have to like sign up. You have to give, you know, maybe your health card number. Like everything has to be planned also because everything is booked, right? Because everyone's trying to go out. So I think I miss a lot of that energy that was like, do you want to just go do this tonight? Like now it's like, okay, well, the lines are going to be crazy and probably going to have to fill out a whole bunch of forms. And like, you can't just go out and do something the same way you used to be able to.
Yeah. Oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for up and coming songwriters?
Keep working and don't, but yeah, keep working, but don't be afraid if you have a bad day. That used to like really be frustrating, and really I would beat myself if I was like, oh my god, I can't songwrite, I'll never be able to songwrite again, I'm so bad at this. Just because I have one bad day, and I'm a 18-year-old girl, which means if I have one bad day, it's like the world's ending, my life's over, I'm never going to be successful, I should give up now.
I'm happy you said it
Yeah.
instead of me.
Yeah. So one thing is, don't be so hard on yourself. I would say to any creative person, I think if you work in a creative industry, you're your like worst critic, and you will be the first person to be like, it's awful, I hate it, it's the worst thing in the world. And I really think as creative people, we should all take the time to breathe and remember that we are a constant work in progress. No matter how young or old you are always changing and growing and being affected by what's happening in the world. So give yourself the space to not always be perfect, because being perfect is really boring. The world would be no fun if we were all just perfect and we're great at everything. It would be no fun. Nothing would be fun.
Thank you very much. This was an amazing interview, and the fact that you're so wise beyond your years and you're so well traveled and you're very ambitious and you're doing amazing things already, I really look forward to seeing how your journey continues to play out.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Is there anything that you would like to plug?
I have a new song coming out August 13th. It's called Jury. Kind of, we were talking about music videos. It definitely is my most extravagant video. It's like the next release in my debut album, From My Eyes, which is really exciting. So I'm excited for that to come out, and I haven't released anything in like a year. So it's exciting to be back doing it. I'm like anxious and excited, but yeah, that's what's coming up.
Links will be in the description below. Oh, I got it. Third time's the charm. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. This was Kero Riripado. Take care, y'all.